So Director of National Intelligence James Clapper told Congressman Michael McCaul that ISIS is now using the refugee stream to come here, which is odd since the White House dismissed such claims. But what else is new? The White House is now no different than the neighbor who suspected terror but didn't report it out of fear of looking racist. Since the DOJ thinks name-calling is worse than terror, can you blame them? Pair that with our Secretary of Stone, John Kerry, a man whose stiff face makes the Burger King mascot seem relaxed, tweeting pictures of him and some actor in Paris just days after a terror attack. I'd call him a tool, but that's wrong because tools are useful. Add a media in a celebrity cesspool cheering gun confiscation, and you've got a raging case of terror denial. So why the need to shift attention from terror to all of that? The war on terror becomes an immigration or gun debate because within those realms, we are the ones at fault. It's the escape hatch from casting moral judgment on our enemies. Because if it's about them and not us, then all that academic brainwash was a waste. But we don't have to talk about terrorists anymore. We can just kill them. Good PR fuels recruitment, inflating prowess without proof of battle. So it's time to shut up and shoot. One humiliating defeat for ISIS, and the bandwagon loses bandwidth. After all, the road to Armageddon is paved with political correctness, and the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. I think Trump said that. So, Kimberly, I have a theory. We haven't seen any evidence of ISIS' fierce battle. We only see their brutality afterwards. Isn't it, if we were able to show a humiliating defeat, that would help ruin their recruitment efforts?
Well, sure, because right now they're the varsity team, right? And everybody wants to play for them. And the problem is you have an administration that is being, flat out duplicitous in terms of the information and misinformation they're putting out. They tried to deny, what McCaul told us, but now we're seeing evidence with Clapper that, in fact, it is true, and that there's a real security threat with respect to the Syrian refugee stream coming in. But ISIS told us this. They're actually being a little bit cooperative. Even what they tell us, and they back up by factual evidence that actually occurs, we still are ISIS deniers. That's the problem with this administration. Yes, all in on climate, thumbs down on ISIS. They're not going to do it. They tabled the issue.
Eric, I'm going to play this sound on tape from Hannity last night. This is Michael McCaul talking about Obama's weakness on terror.
I think he's playing Russian roulette with national security, and the fact is, when you have the FBI director who testified before my committee, the Secretary of Homeland Security, talk about the lack of a vetting process, first and foremost, we have to protect the safety of Americans. We're a humanitarian nation, but let's get this thing right before we start bringing in tens of thousands of Syrians.
What do you think?
Yeah, so he's talking about the refugee program, which President Obama has said 10,000, but in the past, prior to this recent round of dust-up, he said hundreds of thousands. He's literally said that. There's, I believe it was about 6 months ago, where he said likely be hundreds of thousands of refugees coming from this, and we were going to take them. Here's what they say versus here's what's really going on. They say ISIS is contained, strategy will degrade and destroy ISIS, and the refugees are safe. But what's really happening, Secretary of Defense today said ISIS is not contained. The former CIA deputy director said Obama didn't bomb the oil fields because of environmental reasons, and that would kind of play in what Kimberly said, and terror has now come to American shore. So the disconnect between what they're saying and what is really happening is vast, but don't forget, he is a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and he promised as much in Cairo in June of 2009.
Yeah, the problem is he's going to bring peace through the existence of a caliphate in the Middle East. Nice.
All right. You brought up Ash Carter, Dana. Let's roll what he had to say, and then maybe you can comment on it.
Okay.
In your orange.
Mr. Secretary, do you agree with General Dunford?
I agree with what General Dunford said, yes.
So if we have not contained, ISIL, how are we to believe that we are succeeding against ISIL?
I think that we are building momentum against ISIL. I'm going to be very careful about describing I've described the trajectory of that success all around Iraq and Syria, some actions we're taking in Libya.
Dana, this is what I find to be the problem, is that I'm not the least bit inspired by the stuff that's coming out of D.C., and you see where the propaganda effort succeeds on the other side, who aren't actually fighting, they're just brutalizing people.
I was trying to imagine if he was reluctant to say more because he knows more, and that he doesn't want to play, show his hand in a public session like that. But actually, then in hearing it again and watching it, I don't think that's the case. And what they have to deal with is that, so President Obama said that ISIS is contained just hours before the Paris attack. The administration then tried to explain that, no, the White House was talking about geographic area of in Iraq, Syria, and now in Libya as it's growing. But regardless of their geographic territory, we know that they are able to plot and plan from a safe haven, and they can do things like inspire through online sources. We're going to get to that in a little bit later in the show. I also think on this one, just remember, President Obama now said 10,000 refugees, and your heart can break for the little boy's family that washed up on the shores of Turkey. But also remember this. The administration knew that this was going to be a problem. The United Nations, the U.S., and Europe, with Europe now facing about 1 million refugees. Talk about playing Russian roulette.
They were warned.
And the point about attacking ISIS and showing them to be vulnerable, remember what bin Laden said that his type of fighters want to back a strong horse. So we are now 18 months or so into this campaign to degrade and destroy ISIS, and he's talking about we are starting to gain some momentum. We're building momentum against ISIS, which is not good enough.
Juan, earlier before the show started, you said we should just kill them all, which I was shocked that you would say
I would be shocked too. Yeah, no. You know, if that would work, I would say go for it. You know, but I don't think that would work. I think when you're battling an ideology, and the ideology is spreading, especially over social media, you've got to be smarter than that. You've got to figure out exactly how we can stop them and stop their recruiting efforts, which is what concerns me greatly about Donald Trump, because I think he's feeding in to their that the U.S. and the Western world is just anti-Muslim. Not true, but that's what's being fed. You know, to my mind, when we get locked into this conversation about contain, not contain, I think we're going down, you know, the rat's hole. I don't think there's any purpose to that conversation. The president clearly was talking about territory. Today at the White House, Josh Earnest, the White House press secretary, said, when it comes to containment, there's no question. 25% of territory previously occupied by ISIS is now reclaimed by Western forces. So, but the idea of contain, how can you say contain when you have something like Paris or San Bernardino? You can't say that and feel good about it. Obviously, ISIS is hurting people.
Yeah.
Also, the expansion into Libya is quite serious.
That's a different issue, though.
That is a spreading like
alarming
of a metaphor.
Why do we have to be
black mold?
Why do we have to be careful? I mean, Ash Carter has been as aggressive as anyone has been in the whole administration, and he himself says we have to be careful how I have to be careful how I word this. I'm driving into work today, and I'm thinking, and it was on the heels of a lot of people beating up Trump. We're going to get to that later, but everyone's worried about ticking off certain groups, ticking off Muslims, ticking off ISIS. Why are we worried?
Kicking off Barack Obama and Valerie Jarrett.
No, but they're worried. Barack Obama's message is we don't want to tick off the groups and populations and armies of people. Why are we worrying about it? Even if we tick them off, they're not going to hate us any more than they already do.
I took that to be a little bit different because he says, I want to be careful about describing the trajectory of that success. I think it's one of two things. One, he either has classified information that he didn't want to provide in an open setting, or he is trying to be cautious because he knows that the trajectory is not good, and therefore he doesn't want to overpromise to the American people that we are doing better than we actually are.
Can I say I think it's probably both. I thought about that very carefully, and both are suggested in the tone and the deliberation in which he spoke, that perhaps he's yes, information, I hope he does, about doing something, and he also doesn't want to give anything up. He wants to under-promise, then over-deliver. Otherwise, it becomes problematic for the administration, and then you get a babysitter like Comey did, right, with Loretta Lynch next to him.
Every single night on ESPN, you put it on the TV, and you know what you see? You see the highlights. You don't say, I don't want to make sure, I don't want Dallas to look too good because that might tick off the Bears fans. You show the highlights. You show your wins. And Greg, I don't know if you were saying that. I thought you were saying it. Why don't we show our wins?
Well,
Why don't we show the world and anyone who's thinking about going to ISIS, maybe that's not the group you want to join up with.
Let me just say something.
We got maybe
if you show them committing acts of terror and horror that they committed, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Our wins, Juan.
No,
our wins.
That's not a win for them.
Juan, that is the recruitment tool. Juan, that's the recruitment tool. It has helped them.
Show them, show the world.
I don't know.
The experts say that the recruitment is created by those acts of barbarism because they take that as an achievement they've never seen proof of battle. They're not seeing battle, but they're seeing people being executed, and they use that propaganda into scaring their future targets.
Well, let me just say that's sick, you know. And
I would agree with you.
So what you're getting then is you're attracting alienated, sick, crazy people. But let me just say, in response to what you were saying earlier, that I think that American strategies, American intelligence, and American successes, we know what we're doing. The question is, do we want to tell them what we're doing? And I don't think that makes any sense.
We said no ground troops.
Outlining where we're going. There was a battle. Hold on.
Wait, Eric, you want to boast about American this and American that. But you know what? That's not how you win this fight.
No, I wanted to show when we took out 10,000 fighters once, about 4 or 5 months ago, we said we found out about it a month after it happened, and the administration said, no, we didn't want to show that because that would tick them off.
There you go.
Well, I have a different idea.
I agree.
How about we show the win? How about we show the fact that we're taking that town, Ramadi? We will
there needs to be a humiliating defeat.
Of course.
And
guess what? So all those young kids who are in New Jersey thinking about taking up arms with ISIS said, well, that's probably not the team I want to be on.
Here's another way of thinking about it. Who was it today? One of the famous directors said, you know what, maybe we shouldn't even be talking about them so much. We are giving lots of publicity. We are saying, oh, yeah, they're big, they're dangerous, they're scary. That helps their recruitment.
Okay, that's a fair point. But the thing is, we also have to deliver. We have to go in there and deliver. And it's going to mean ground troops because we have to go in there. And we don't lose. These guys, they pick their battles by percentage. If they think they're going to lose, they retreat. That's what roving hordes do.
They will lose?
Yes, they will lose because they don't fight.
Beat our guys.
Yes, terror takes the path of least resistance.
But our guys have to be allowed to fight.
Well,
that's the thing.
That's another one.
Fight smart.
That's another one.
Yeah, Juan's like, don't let them fight. Put their arms behind their back. Don't show any wins against ISIS.
You know what they say? Don't get into fights unless you know you're going to win. So don't fight.
That's what ISIS is doing.
Don't fight based on emotion and boasting.
Oh, no, you don't think the U.S. can win and our troops are not capable of crushing them?
I said definitely.
Then
but
let's
we don't
do
want
it.
to
What are we
boast
waiting
about
for?
it.
Oh, God.